This is the Quiz Fix. I'm Cyril, that's Olivia. One true story per episode, one quiz at the end, because facts you tested on are facts you keep. Here we go. Picture the United States in the early 1800s. New York City is growing, but moving goods inland is slow, expensive, and muddy. Then along comes one of the most ambitious public works projects in American history, the Erie Canal.
And when it opens in 1825, it is not just a ditch with big ambitions. It becomes a commercial game changer. If you want one project that helped turn New York into the country's dominant port, this is a top contender.
Absolutely. The canal connected the Hudson River at Albany to Lake Erie at Buffalo, creating a water route from the Atlantic Ocean deep into the interior. That may sound straightforward now, but at the time it was revolutionary.
Because before the canal, moving freight overland was brutally inefficient. Roads were rough, wagons were slow, and transportation costs could swallow profits. Water transport was much cheaper, but the Great Lakes and the Atlantic were not naturally linked.
So the Erie Canal basically stitched together two huge transportation systems. Goods could come down the Great Lakes, enter the canal at Buffalo, travel across New York State, reach the Hudson, and then continue to New York Harbor and the world.
That made the canal an economic shortcut with enormous consequences. Western farmers could ship grain and other products to eastern markets more efficiently. And manufactured goods from the east could move west at lower cost. Trade went both ways.
Let's pause on the scale for a second. The Erie Canal was about 363 miles long when first completed. It took years of digging, planning, financing, and sheer stubbornness. And some people mocked it as impossible or foolish.
Which is funny in hindsight, because the project did face serious skepticism. Many critics thought the engineering challenge was too big or the financing too risky. But supporters, especially in New York, saw the potential immediately.
The man most associated with the project is DeWitt Clinton, who was governor of New York when the canal was completed. He was not the only person involved, of course, but his name is strongly tied to the canal's success.
And the financing matters here. New York State supported the project with public funds, which was a big deal in an era when large-scale infrastructure was still relatively unusual in the United States.
Right. This was a public investment in commerce, and it paid off. The canal tolls eventually helped cover costs, and the broader economic benefits were even larger. It encouraged settlement, expanded markets, and increased New York's influence.
New York City especially benefited. Before the canal, ports like Philadelphia and Baltimore had reasons to think they might dominate trade. After the canal, New York gained a direct, low-cost route to the interior, and that helped the city surge ahead.
And the timing was important too. The canal opened in 1825, during a period when the nation was expanding rapidly westward. Farmers, merchants, and settlers were all looking for better ways to move people and products.
The canal fit perfectly into that moment. It helped make the Midwest, then often called the Old Northwest, more tightly connected to eastern markets. In other words, the canal did not just move goods, it helped shape the economic geography of the United States.
One of the classic facts about the Erie Canal is how much it cut shipping costs. Transporting freight from Buffalo to New York City became far cheaper than hauling it by wagon over land. Depending on the commodity and the route, costs could drop dramatically.
And that cost reduction mattered because commerce is often about small margins. If you can move more goods for less money, you can sell more competitively, grow faster, and reach markets that used to be out of reach.
The canal also influenced what people grew and where they lived. Farmers in the interior could now produce for distant markets with more confidence. Towns sprang up along the route. Ports, warehouses, mills, and other businesses followed the traffic.
So the canal was not just a transportation corridor, it was a development engine. Communities along the route gained access to trade networks that had previously been limited or expensive.
There's also a fun symbolic detail. When the canal was completed, there was a famous ceremonial journey involving a water connection from Lake Erie to the Atlantic. It was a very 19th century way of saying, "We did it."
Very much so. The celebrations showed how proud New Yorkers were of the project, and honestly, they had reason to be. The canal was one of the clearest examples of American engineering and planning paying off in real economic terms.
But let's not pretend the canal was perfect or cost-free. Building it required enormous labor. Workers, including many immigrants, did the back-breaking excavation. Construction was hard, dangerous, and often underappreciated.
That's an important point. Big infrastructure has big human costs. The canal's success depended on labour, land, money, and political will. It's easy to remember the economic triumph and forget the people who made it possible.
And from a historical perspective, the Erie Canal is a great reminder that transportation technology can reshape an entire nation. Before railroads dominated inland travel, canals were the high-tech solution of the day.
Exactly. And the Erie Canal was especially effective because it linked existing waterways instead of trying to replace them. It worked with geography rather than fighting it, which is part of why it was so successful.
It also helped establish New York as a major gateway for immigration and commerce. Goods, capital, and people increasingly flowed through the state. That reinforced New York's position for decades.
And the effects went beyond one city or one state. Lower transportation costs contributed to a more integrated national market. That is a big phrase, but it means something simple. Different parts of the country could trade with each other more easily and more regularly.
Which is one of the defining trends of the 19th century American economy. The nation was becoming more connected, more commercial, and more urbanized. The Erie Canal was one of the engines driving that change.
I like to think of it as the original logistical flex. Before the canal, the interior and the coast were more separated. Afterward, the canal helped knit them together in a way that changed how Americans did business.
And because it was so successful, it also inspired other canal projects. States and private groups saw what was possible and tried to build their own transportation improvements, though not all of them matched the Erie Canal's success.
Of course, by the mid-1800s, railroads started changing the game again. But that does not diminish the Erie Canal's importance. For a crucial period, it was one of the most important arteries of American trade.
So if you're asking why the Erie Canal matters, the answer is that it made distance cheaper. And when distance gets cheaper, markets grow, cities rise, and economic power shifts.
That's the heart of it. The canal did not just move boats, it moved the center of gravity of American commerce.
Let's do a quick recap. The Erie Canal opened in 1825. It linked the Hudson River to Lake Erie, creating a water highway between the Atlantic coast and the Great Lakes.
It cut transportation costs, boosted trade, strengthened New York City, encouraged settlement, and helped create a more connected national economy.
And it did all of that in an era when most people still traveled and traded much more slowly than we do today. That's what makes it so impressive.
A canal may not sound flashy, but in 1825 it was practically a superpower. If you wanted to understand the rise of American commerce, you really need to understand the Erie Canal.
And that is the story of how a canal in New York helped transform the United States. This episode of the Quiz Fix is brought to you by Fyrebox, F-Y-R-E-B-O-X, the smartest way to put your audience to the test. From lead gen quizzes to personality tests to training assessments, Fyrebox helps you launch beautiful, fully customizable quizzes in minutes. Thousands of marketers, teachers, and creators already use it to turn visitors into qualified leads. Build your first quiz free at fyrebox.com. Welcome back. You just heard the story. Now let's see what stuck. Coming up, a few quick questions straight from what we just covered. 4 options each. I'll give you a few seconds to think before each answer. Ready? Here we go. Question 1. In what year did the Erie Canal open? A. 1815, B. 1825, C. 1835, D. 1845. The correct answer is B. 1825. Question 2. Which 2 bodies of water did the Erie Canal connect? A. The Mississippi River and the Gulf of Mexico, B. the Hudson River and Lake Erie, C. the Potomac River and Chesapeake Bay, D. the Ohio River and the Atlantic Ocean. The correct answer is B. the Hudson River and Lake Erie. Question 3. Who is most associated with the Erie Canal in the script? A. DeWitt Clinton, B. Thomas Jefferson, C. Alexander Hamilton, D. Andrew Jackson. The correct answer is A. DeWitt Clinton. Question 4. What was one major economic effect of the Erie Canal mentioned in the dialogue? A. It made shipping freight by wagon more expensive. B. It cut transportation costs and boosted trade. C. It ended all commerce with the western states. D. It replaced the need for New York Harbor. The correct answer is B. It cut transportation costs and boosted trade. Question 5. Why was the Erie Canal especially important to New York City? A. It gave the city a direct, low-cost route to the interior. B. It moved the capital of the United States to New York. C. It connected New York City to the Pacific Ocean. D. It eliminated the need for Atlantic shipping. The correct answer is A. It gave the city a direct, low-cost route to the interior. That's a wrap on this one. Thanks for sticking with us all the way through, quiz and all. If you liked it, hit subscribe so the next episode lands automatically. I'm Cyril, this was the Quiz Fix, and we'll be back soon with another true story worth knowing.